This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
When kids don't play, they grow up without imagination. Then it's all small talk and awkward weather chats. Good thing Gushers, Fruit by the Foot, and Fruit Roll-Ups are made to be played with. You better be playing.
ElectraCast.
So Mitchum gets busted with a few other actors, none of whom are as famous as him, for smoking weed, which was super illegal.
Marijuana, they said.
Yeah, marijuana. There's a picture of all of them in court when the verdict comes down, and the others are all scowling and upset, and Mitchum's like literally mocking the verdict. Welcome to episode 206 of Film Generations, where two guys from the 20th century select a classic movie to show a panel of young film lovers and see if it still plays for today's generation. I'm Mark Netter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ElectraCast Media. I'm also a sometime filmmaker and an instructor at the Los Angeles Film School.
I'm David Tausick, and once upon a time, I also made B movies.
Hi, I'm Kylie LaRue. I'm a graduate of USC Film School, and I'm an aspiring film writer.
Hi, I'm Grace Chapman, and I'm a film student at the Los Angeles Film School.
Hi, I'm Guy Lewis. I'm a recent film school grad, and I love movies.
This past week, we watched what some call the epitome of classic film noir, Out of the Past from 1947. Directed by Jacques Tourneur, it stars a young Robert Mitchum as a hard-boiled detective, Jeff Bailey, who's hired by gangster Whit Sterling, played by Kirk Douglas in only his third movie role, to find the woman who shot him and stole $40,000 on her way out. But when Detective Jeff finds femme fatale Kathy Moffat, played indelibly by Jane Greer, he falls head over heels and they go on the run. The movie has an unusual structure, starting in small-town California where Jeff, the new name, owns a gas station and is getting serious with an upstanding local girl. But Whit's henchman unexpectedly drags Jeff back into his past life. As girlfriend Anne drives Jeff to Whit's Tahoe estate, Jeff tells her the whole backstory in an extended flashback climaxing in his betrayal by Kathy. And then after Anne drops him off, Jeff finds himself stuck in what looks like a frame-up, where Whit is taking his revenge by making Jeff the fall guy, and with Kathy sure looking like she's in cahoots. So, will Jeff thwart this trap of his old life and build a beautiful new one with Anne? Well, there's a reason they call it film noir, which is literally French for black film. You do the math. So let's see how our young panelists feel about Out of the Past 77 years after its initial release. All right, now I happen to know that David is the only person besides me who has seen this movie before. Is that correct?
Yep. I really liked it from the jump. I love noir films, but I was very stressed the whole time. It was just so much tension. And I didn't trust, what's her name?
Kathy?
Fatale. Yeah, I did not trust her from the beginning. I really enjoyed it, though. It was a fun ride.
So Kathy never seduced you? She never made you believe that maybe
Yeah, they
was
were
a good
talking
girl?
about like how stunning she was when she walked in. I was like, that can't be her. She's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but not what I was expecting.
Kylie, what about you?
I was a little hesitant at the beginning. The dialogue for me, the first 10 minutes, I was just like moving my head back and forth with all the crazy wit. And then once the dust settled a little bit, I really started to like it. And then by the end, I was just like totally enamored with the characters. And it surprised me from where I started and where it ended.
Did you think Kathy was bad throughout?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's a film noir, and if she's supposed to be the hottest girl, she has to be the bad one. So, you know, that's the genre.
All right, Guy, what about you?
Lots of cigarettes, a lot of smoking going on in this movie.
It looks so cool.
Yeah, cigarette advertising was no joke back in the day. But yeah, I liked how there was no really real good guys, except for the cop. But everyone was pretty much a bad guy, and I really like movies like that. You know, as far as not trusting any of the women, I can see your point.
So how would you guys describe the atmosphere of this film? And is it similar or different from other film noirs you might have seen?
It seemed like something I've never really seen before. Like, I could see how this is sort of the archetype for noirs, but they all sort of spin it a little differently. Well, the ones I've seen at least. But there is this thread throughout them of being afraid of independent women, it seems.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, maybe just afraid of their own desire. An independent woman can be, an exciting thing. And maybe that's part of his fear of excitement over meeting an independent, interesting woman.
And I think so too. What felt different from the classic ones is I feel like the other film noir that I've seen, the woman succumbs or pretends to succumb a lot more to men. Whereas I feel like Anne and Kathy were always more of an individual the whole time. Yet they might have loved their man, but like they always had that air of confidence in themselves. It was kind of just a different, I guess, tone of woman than I usually see in film noirs, where it's just sex and murder.
Do you feel like Kathy ever really loved Jeff?
I think she liked that he thought she was someone else. And I think she enjoyed that he was literally chasing her and that she thought that she was smarter than him. So I think she liked having a leg up, but I don't think that she was truly in love.
I agree. I think she was like a sociopath and capable of having real feelings.
She's a serial killer, for real.
But she's not like a killer because she enjoys killing. She's a killer because she just figures that's the best way out of certain situations, right?
Yeah. Like every situation that she faced.
Yeah, which is insane.
Were there any moments in particular that really surprised you in the movie?
The lead actress, I felt that the strength of her character was a little bit pre-feminist movement. I'm going to take my own life into my own hands. I was kind of surprised about that.
That's interesting, which is kind of what Grace and Kylie were saying a little bit about how she's different from the average femme fatale. Was anybody shocked when Kathy actually shot Jeff's partner after the fight?
Oh, no, she was supposed to shoot him. That was supposed to happen.
I figured she was going to do that for sure.
Yeah, I actually wasn't sure how Jeff was going to react. He was shocked and appalled. And had he reacted less shocked and appalled, I wouldn't have been too surprised either. So when I watch this movie, I'm kind of struck by what a nice, decent guy he actually is.
Yeah.
He's playing it a little bit in the style of, Jimmy Cagney and Humphrey Bogart, who often played really cold-blooded characters who probably could have seen somebody get shot and said, oh, well, too bad. He's not that kind of guy. It's more surprising to me how nice he is rather than how cold-blooded Kathy is.
That's interesting. I mean, they don't show him burying the body, which I think would have maybe changed your feelings a little bit. One of the things that defines real film noir, at least in my mind, is the idea of a doomed man. Think about The Third Man, which we looked at in the first season, which ends with the death of Harry at the hands of his friend. But to what degree do you think Jeff is getting what he deserves or somehow is responsible for his own fate?
He's definitely responsible for his own fate. I mean, there's like so many different ways he could have played the situation. He could have just went to the cops. There's so many exits and many outs that he had that he chose not to, but that's like the nature of storytelling, I guess. You're not going to do the things that you're supposed to do. You're going to make the wrong decisions. But yeah, he kind of brought all that on himself. He went back and forth between two women. And so since he chose the wrong woman, he got what he kind of deserved.
I think his downfall was just that because he's so nice, he tries to hold on to the person he always wanted Kathy to be in a way for most of the movie. I think there are aspects of him where he will do her dirty work a little bit just because he's already done that, as what happened in the past with the partner. I think when you don't just take things for what they are and you have the rose-colored glasses on, that's what happens sometimes when you're with bad people.
I think that kind of goes to what's resonant about the movie. He makes a decision in Mexico that he's not going to tell Whit that he's found her. There's a moment where he could. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but he goes to the Western Union office and it's closed. Mm-hmm. And so he's kind of like, screw it. I'm just going to go see if I can seduce her.
He's like, that's my sign.
I was just wondering, if you're working for a gangster like Kirk Douglas, what happens if you go to the cops? Can you really do that? You might be kind of stuck in this world.
I see your point, and I agree. But like, if he was a really good guy, in my opinion, if you were a really good guy, you would risk being killed by the mobsters. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. If he went to the cops, he would totally be killed.
I think it speaks to like the times too, because there was like the moral ambiguity with the war ending and everything. So there's like some anti-establishment undertones going on. So he was a PI, he didn't want to go to the law. He could handle it himself.
I do think the whole thing is really influenced by the war, right? And you mentioned already, there's these independent women. Women gained a lot of independence during the war while so many men were away.
Taking men's jobs.
Yeah, jobs and just becoming more independent in general. I just think it's the march of American women becoming more powerful, becoming more assertive. And then men come back from the war and they're confronting this. And I think a lot of men have very mixed feelings about it. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And the other thing is all these men in the war having to do really violent things that weren't necessarily in their makeup, that they didn't really want to do. Yeah. But it's become part of life. Like sometimes you've got to do terrible things. And that's something that really comes up in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Just not being able to escape your past, really.
And not being able to escape violence, not being able to opt out of violence.
Robert Mitchum's playing a guy who, at least at the start of the story, is a detective. And he's able to track Kathy down. He basically gets a clue, kind of like a nod to Guy, who I know you're always looking for where the African-American people actually showing up in the movie. There's one scene that's filled with them, and that's the jazz club.
It was a pretty cool scene too. I was like, yeah, cool. I really zoned into that one. I was like, oh, black people. Okay, here we go.
Everybody's dressed up. They look great. The music's great.
And it was just a really cool scene. The jazz part of it was a real cool scene.
Yeah, I liked it.
The guy who wrote the book, Black culture was important to him. The name of the book, Build My Gallows High. That phrase comes from a poem written by a black man. And this writer, he has a pseudonym.
What is it, Daniel Manwaring? I'm not sure if that's
Daniel Manwaring. Yeah, Daniel Manwaring or something is his real name. He was blacklisted because he was involved in a lot of very left-wing causes. And I just feel like he worked that scene in there out of his own preference to sort of find a way to get that in there.
Pretty cool.
Well, one of the reasons people would get blacklisted back then, or you'd be considered to be a pinko, is if you were for equal rights for African Americans. That was a big deal. It's funny. Jeff is a detective at the beginning of the movie, and we see him do some detecting, and he goes to the club, and he interviews the woman who worked for Kathy. Her name's Letty. And then she lies to Jeff. She tells him, oh, she's in Florida, but she mentioned inoculation. So Jeff goes, okay, she's got to be down in Mexico. So he's doing this detective work, but I feel like it's a detective story where the guy stops detecting like pretty early on. Right?
Well, he turns it back on, though, when the other guy gets killed.
Eels?
The guy that they killed Eels, the guy that they killed to set up the...
he figures it out really quickly.
Yeah, but it's more reactive. It's not like he's out there doing detecting. He's just kind of being like a courier for his own doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I was thrown for a loop by the structure. Not quite at the level of Citizen Kane, but it has that sense of like, wait, what happened when?
I was a little bit lost, I'll admit. I had to go back a few times to figure out what was happening. But I think it actually adds to it in a way, just because you kind of feel Jeff's tizzy that he's in over this femme fatale. So I wasn't bothered by it.
It did definitely throw me for a loop, partly because I literally got 3 phone calls during the first 30 minutes. I give it a pause and say, sorry, I can't talk right now, da-da-da. And then I go back into it, and then I'd be like, wait, did I not pause it? Did I miss something? So I ended up rewatching the first 30 minutes 3 times. It was so hectic. But then the third time I was like, oh, okay, yes. And then I got into it all, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is messy. But it's film noir. If it's not a little bit messy, it's not part of the genre, I don't think.
I'm not trying to say that I'm always on the ball, because there's stuff that I always understand all the time. But this one I didn't think it was that difficult. There's only one part that kind of confused me, because the secretary and the lead actress, I think they had the same haircut. So I was like, wait, who?
That's where I was very confused.
I didn't want to. I was hoping that it would become clearer.
Yeah. So Mark, you've seen it more times than me. Am I wrong? Or is there a scene where he goes to the apartment of Meta, played by Rhonda Fleming?
Yeah.
And then Jane Greer is there. and they look alike. They look similar.
Yeah.
They both have dark hair. So it's like, I thought for like the first half of the scene that it was Rhonda Fleming.
Well, now we're getting into some of the stuff that I think makes this film special and makes it super interesting. There's a scene where they're both in a cab together in the back, and I don't know who's who until I really look, because their faces are similar shape, the hairs are similar. Yeah, what happens is after Jeff finds Eel dead and hides the body, he comes back to Meta's place, or Meta, I think is how they said it in the movie. And he's been there earlier, right? He went there and had a drink. She says, "You like drink?" He goes, "That'd be nice." She goes, "I have whiskey." He goes, "That'd be nicer." And but when he comes back, he sneaks in through the window, and there's a party going on. And you actually hear the music before you actually get into the apartment, right? And then Kathy comes in, and she's finishing up the blackmail plot. She basically is calling the building manager, pretending to be the secretary. And she says to the building manager, "I haven't heard from him. Can you go check?" And then the building manager checks, doesn't find him there. She's hoping he's going to find the dead body. And now she freaks out. And I think there's so many amazing shots in the movie, but my favorite one is the look on Kathy's face when she realizes that Mitchum is there, and the sheer terror on her face. It's really close too, and slightly out of focus. And I think it's an amazing moment. But I think this movie has a lot to do with doubling, and a lot to do with everyone is constantly making the wrong decisions and saying the wrong, there's somebody earlier who says, a dame with a gun is like a guy with a knitting needle, just doesn't work. Well, we find out that Kathy does know how to use a gun. Maybe he's not right about that. Mitchum thinks he can get away with this. He clearly can't. He thinks Kathy's one type of person. She clearly isn't. There's a lot of things in the movie where you kind of get this doubling or kind of a reflection, Kathy versus Anne. Anne is blonde. We only see her in daylight, except for when he comes and picks her up. Kathy is dark. There's also this weird thing with Whit, the Kirk Douglas character. We know he's a gangster, but he's really just described as a gambler. So aside from his threats of violence towards Kathy at a certain point and kind of the general fear you get and the fact that he's got a gunman, does he do anything that's really gangster?
Mm-mm.
Tax evasion is his most exciting crime.
Yeah. So I thought it was like him trying to avoid a racketeering beef. I think there's a line of dialogue where he said he kind of stepped up his game from the gambling to other things. So I thought he, evolved to a more dangerous person.
He does have a henchman that runs around with a gun. So there's that.
Yeah, but everyone's got a henchman. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Every rich guy is a bodyguard with a gun. So.
A few episodes ago, we talked about Frank on Blue Velvet as a villain. How do you feel that Whit ranks as a villain?
Not Frank level.
Mm-mm.
No.
Not close.
Oh, he's kind of nice.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, this guy's not that bad.
He's mad at a lady who he liked shooting him and stealing. So it's like, I'd also be mad if someone shot me and stole my money. So I can't really blame him for it.
And he wants her back.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you're so forgiving.
He's a perfectly agreeable guy.
He's forgiving.
Until towards the end, you find out that he really enjoys controlling Kathy, and that when he's about to lose her, then he says, okay, this is how it's going to be. You're going to do what I say, or you're going to spend the rest of your life in constant fear. And he's tough with her at the end.
Yeah. And I think one of the most shocking things in the movie, really, for some reason, the most striking act of violence is when he slaps her.
Yeah, but you felt that coming. It's sad to say it was like one of these old black and white movies that a woman's going to get slapped eventually in the movie.
And if anyone's asking to be slapped, it's Kathy. I mean, she's, it's like inevitable.
Yeah, she's so annoying. She can't even take responsibility for anything. She's like, I couldn't help it.
Well, I didn't think she was annoying. I just think she was just a player, a grifter. I don't hate her as much as I guess you guys hate her.
I don't either. I feel like she's like the male characters. She just doesn't have the power that they have.
Yeah,
so she's acting just like them, but she
doesn't have the agency,
doesn't quite have the power to back it up.
Yeah.
Did you remember Mitchum says, "You're just like a leaf the wind blows from gutter to gutter"?
That's also a good one.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
She wasn't a great planner. It wasn't just like a conniving person. She really would kind of, in a way, go with the flow, but then take it to her advantage. But it's like not like she was clever and was like, oh, I'm going to manipulate this whole situation. Like she really just did just kill everybody to solve the problem. And I would have loved to see more connivingness before But, she's so trigger happy. She loves that gun so much.
I would like to see the argument before she stabbed Whit. I really wanted to know what that was about.
Did she stab him or shoot him?
She shot him. She shot Whit. Yeah.
The second time too, right? First time we don't see. It happens before the movie
the first
starts.
time he gets shot in the stomach. Yeah. But I really wanted to know what that was about.
It's interesting they don't show that scene, right? That's an off-camera scene. It's a major thing.
So what about looking at the movie from Kathy's point of view? Like, where does she come from? How does she end up with this guy? Does she have any choices, or does she have to end up back with Whit? Is there a version of this story where Kathy maybe isn't completely bad? She's just dealing with circumstances?
Well, she's no worse than anyone else in the film,
Well, she's worse than Mitchum. She's worse than Mitchum.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Mitchum was even that bad.
Mitchum drug a girl along. You know what I'm saying? The whole entire time.
He didn't murder her.
But,
there's way worse things he could do.
I don't know. I just think that I didn't like him.
What?
Oh my gosh.
I liked him. I thought he was great.
Oh, me too. I thought he was likable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked Robert Mitchum, and I thought he was trying to protect Anne, the pure rural girl, as opposed to the evil, urban, nasty.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I thought he was just really nice, and him and the kid had a nice relationship, and he didn't seem like he had really any prejudices, and he was just trying to clear things up to maybe one day be with Anne and be back with the kid and hang out.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Do you think that he knew that by calling the cops, he was sealing his own fate as well as Kathy's?
Maybe. I think he knew the possibility, but I think that goes along with his character of always believing something good will happen or holding on to that very thin silver lining.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
But at the end of the movie, right, Anne asked the kid, hey, you think he would have came back to me or he would have left with the girl? And the kid was like, nah, he would have left with the girl. And if he was trying
to let her go.
I think so too.
Okay. This is.
Yeah. No. He was trying to let her go. He's like, if she knew the truth.
Yeah, she would be clinging on to him forever.
Mm-mm.
She wouldn't have been able to get over him. He did it to spare her so she can get a clean start.
Yeah.
This is one of the instances where I want us to be able to see certain clips, because that does not come across to me in that scene with her and the deaf kid. The deaf kid was like, I don't want to tell you the truth. She's like, come on, tell me. And he was like, yeah, he didn't want to be with you.
But do you remember that he nods to the sign with Jeff's name on it afterwards? He basically salutes the sign as if Jeff would have wanted him to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what I got
know that
from
what
it
the
too.
kid says isn't true. And then he salutes the sign to show why he lied, that he's just being true to what Jeff would have wanted. Jeff would have wanted her to be free to go off on her own life.
That's how I took it too.
I'll concede you. Yeah. I'm outvoted, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So I'll concede that. I don't agree, but okay, say what you want to say, y'all. Go ahead, do your thing.
We'll be right back with more Film Generations.
This episode is brought to you by Marshalls, where you never have to compromise between quality and price. The buyers at Marshalls hustle hard, working to bring you great deals on brand name and designer pieces. Because Marshalls believes everyone deserves access to the good stuff. Visit a Marshalls store near you or shop online at marshalls.com.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
one of the things that makes this movie so complex is it doesn't explain a lot of backstory. Like, where did Kathy come from? Is she from a small town? Is she a big city girl? Is she just a pretty girl who was in a chorus line? Like, how did she end up with wit? I don't know. And the same thing with the kid. So at the very beginning, we see there's this deaf mute teen, just called the Kid, played by Dickie Moore, who's working at the gas station, who is essentially like a son to Jeff, even though there's no indication at all that Jeff is his father biologically. But I think one of the reasons we like Jeff is when the kid tells him that this gunman has come looking for him, he finds Jeff out by the stream where he's hanging out with his girlfriend. And the kid does sign language with Jeff, and Jeff actually responds in sign language. Like, he understands what the kid's saying. So we think these guys have a relationship, and it's only been 3, maybe 4 years, right?
The author originally tried to start the film with the kid fishing, and some guys walk by and say, oh yeah, there's the kid that worked with that SOB. And then it starts with the kid's voiceover saying, he was no SOB. And then it's all a flashback told in the voice of the deaf mute, which then leads to all the other flashbacks that we have.
So does anyone wonder, like, does the kid inherit the gas station? Like, what happens at the end of the movie?
I like the fact that they didn't explain everything, though. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of drop you into a slice of America and then say, okay, go. I thought that part was kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked the kid's relationship with him. And it kind of shows that, to his nature, Jeff is like a good guy because he is taking this kid under his wing. Everyone in the town is questioning his reputation because he just kind of came out of nowhere. But here he is almost raising this deaf mute kid. So I think it shows that he's just a good guy and he should be trusted.
That's right. I think it shows a real break with his past, that he's doing that. Mm-hmm. And also the kid himself. So first of all, my mother and my stepfather were both deaf. I feel like the deaf kid, his deafness represents a kind of innocence in a way. Not that deaf people are always innocent, but, can't really participate in all the fast talk. Because in this town, even the waitress behind the counter is like a wise, cracking, fast-talking broad, right? But the kid is apart from all that. He's like very natural. You just see him fishing and fixing cars. I think that's sort of one of the reasons for having a deaf kid there, that it plays up this whole thing of, like, in the country, everyone's good. Anne is good. Her parents, they're a little mistrusting, but they're good folk. They're just worried about whether he's moral enough for their daughter. And then when you get to the city, everybody's on the make. And it's just it's a cesspool of violence and scheming.
Again, a thing that I think separates it from other film noirs. If you go see, like, The Maltese Falcon or The Big Sleep, there's a little bit of daylight scenes, but really they're all about night. It's all dark city, urban, night stuff. This movie very clearly is kind of saying you have a choice. And Jeff has made a choice at the beginning of the movie, right? You can either be in the beautiful, sleepy, small town. You can marry the guy that you've known since you were in grade school who used to help you with your skates, go fishing and eat pie and drink coffee at the local diner. Or you could go to this big city life, this dark world where everybody wears trench coats and smokes cigarettes and listens to cool jazz music. And by the way, it's really treacherous and dangerous and deadly. Which one's more appealing to you guys?
City, actually, hands down.
In the movie?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where all the action happens, Mm-hmm. That's where the fun is.
Definitely.
Yeah,
there's a party, there's a jazz club. Like, I prefer that to, like, a gas station and a waitress who doesn't shut up about everyone's business. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd rather go to a jazz club.
Well, you're right. But for me, I'm rooting for him to end up with Anne and the nice life and fish. And, like, that's what I want for him. At the same time, if the whole movie was him doing that, it'd be horrible. It's like he's got to go to San Francisco and get in fistfights because otherwise there's no movie.
This time seeing it, I really thought about our Blue Velvet conversation. And in particular, Grace, you were talking at one point about normies versus the people in the dark world. It's very like Blue Velvet in the sense that there's this kind of light world with Sandy, and then there's this dark world with, Isabella Rossellini.
Yeah, very similar.
Run by a guy who's an unsavory control freak.
I was conflicted with your question, definitely, because there's a big part of me that wants to just be away from everyone in a little tiny town with a creek and beautiful nature all around me. But as far as exciting movies go, yeah, you want to be in the urban environment.
I personally would love to be in the city all the time, but I do think for him, it's like a toxic relationship. You can't be in it because then you do bad things. So yeah, I wanted him to end up with Anne and get away from it and live in the country and live a quiet, nice life undisturbed from his past.
One of the things that always bugged me about the movie a little bit is he seems so much older than Anne. At the time, he's 30 years old and she's 22 as actors, right? And Mitchum looks older than 30, I think, in the movie. They lived a little rougher back then. Mm-hmm. Kathy, Jane Greer, is only 23 years old at the time. But to me, they look like they belong together. And you see him with this blonde Virginia Houston playing Anne, and it feels like, okay, nice try, but that's not going to work out, dude. I mean, does anyone else feel that?
I feel like they just didn't have much chemistry, sadly. She didn't seem that much younger to me. I didn't really believe their love story.
All the characters are really pretty interesting, complex, well-drawn. Anne isn't. I mean, Anne just, she loves him. You don't know why. You don't know anything about her other than she's a nice girl from the country.
Maybe she sees the goodness in him. That's what I think you're kind of drawn to with her, right?
I kind of got the vibe that she's like the only chick in that town. And that's why... No, seriously. Like, no, I mean, like everyone else is like either married. You got the lady at the coffee shop, but she looked older, but I don't want to be that guy. But Anne is the only young, single. I mean, like, you didn't see her and her girlfriends. You didn't see anyone else in that town. So he bailed to go hide in his town, and the only eligible bachelorette in that town, he's going to go after her. You know what I'm saying?
Slim pickings.
Right? Yeah, she had a pick between Robert Mitchum and that cop dude,
Yeah, even the waitress at the beginning is saying she doesn't want to be single, but, what's she going to do? She's stuck in this town.
And were you guys against the cop dude, or did you, become a fan of his when he decided not to turn Mitchum in towards the end?
Friend might be a strong word.
No.
No, Kylie, you're shaking your head.
He turns out to be decent.
He was fine. Oh, he was a little boring, I feel like. Everyone else, even like the bad guys, I kind of was like, oh, you guys are cute. Like, I'm drawn to you a little bit. You're bad. But then, like, for the cop, I was just like, I get it. Get off your high horse. Like, just do your thing. Like, oh, like, it was just so bland. I was almost exhausted by the show.
Yeah,
being like,
oh,
I know you love her. Like, you're just not him. Yeah.
And Anne ends up with him at the end. Like, that's the happy ending, is she gets him.
It seems like such a surrender.
Exactly. She settled so bad.
She's going to spend the rest of her days. She has a couple kids. She'll be just thinking about Mitchum every night. Oh. Damn.
Now I feel bad for the cop. Now I feel bad for him. And that's very hard to do. Make me feel bad for a cop.
I want to talk about the Jeff-Kathy relationship in Mexico. She walks in out of the sunlight into the cafe, and it's kind of an iconic shot. And there's the great line where she said, "Jeff, you don't really think that I stole that money." And do you remember what he says back to her?
He says, "I don't care, baby."
Baby, I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
So I know it's an old movie, and obviously standards of sexuality change, but tell me if I'm wrong. They still seem hot together. Am I wrong about this?
Hot may be a strong word.
Yeah.
They
have good chemistry, for sure.
Definitely.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the one where they come in out of the rain.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I could actually smell the rain in that scene. It was like really well done. Oversized rain droplets that like possibly hurt when it comes down on you just to make it look like real rain in the scene. It felt wet and I could just smell that's a great scene.
Yeah, Jacques Tourneur, he's great at those rain scenes, right? He does them in a lot of different movies, and they always stand out. I Walked with a Zombie has a scene like that. You feel the rain and the wind. So there's this moment where they have sex and they can't really even allude to it or say anything about it. So all that happens is the door blows open with the wind and the rain comes rushing in the house. And then the next thing you know, they slam the door shut and it's over. Apparently in the last 5 seconds, they had a torrid lovemaking scene.
Well, I don't think you know how much time has passed at that moment. I think it's a little bit of an ellipse.
It's a cut in time, I know. But in movie time, it's like 5 seconds. They walk in, this thing happens. You're like, oh, I guess they just had sex because the rain's pouring in the house and the door,
Well, they had fallen below the frame line and the couch. And then they go on the run, and you see this montage of them living in San Francisco, taking more and more chances, and, eventually getting caught by his ex-partner. But it seems like that was the idyllic time. They were in the city. Jeff was taking shitty jobs, as a detective, just the lowest jobs just to keep groceries. And they would go out into the woods. And it's just sort of like this idyllic post-war romance. To me, that's the most romantic part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So did anybody have, aside from some of the ones that have been mentioned, any favorite lines in the movie that stuck out?
I can't remember the exact line, but when he realizes he's been framed, he just throws his cigarette at everybody. He's like, you try to frame me again. He just tosses the cigarette on the floor. I loved that. The disrespect.
Oh, the carpet, you mean? Like when he put it on the carpet? Oh, yeah, I was like...
And then Joe comes and stomps it out in the rug. It's disgusting.
I like when Kirk Douglas offers him a cigarette and he says, smoking. And he puts his arm and he's like, got the cigarette in his hand already.
As somebody who used to smoke years and years ago, it's hard to watch this movie and not want to light up right afterwards.
It's one of those things that looks better than it actually is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes you look so cool.
Yeah, it does make it look cool. And it fills the space. Robert Ebert wrote about how he thinks this is the best cigarette smoking movie of all time. That they would basically just throw a light up against the wall and then blow some smoke into it. And now you see what people are feeling. It's a way of them expressing themselves.
My line is the actual quote from the title of the book that they made this from. It says, build my gallows high. And I think that's very interesting imagery.
Yeah, people react to these lines when you're in a movie theater. When Jeff is back with Anne, she goes, well, nobody's all bad. He goes, yeah, but she comes the closest. That one always got me.
And I thought of Maltese Falcon in that scene where they say, there's got to be a fall guy. Someone's going to have to take the fall for this. That seems to come right out of Maltese Falcon.
I definitely got some Gone Girl in there.
Oh, tell us about that. What do you mean?
I think with the woman who wants revenge and might not be the most morally best, but you can't really blame her based on the guy she has because you don't really like him either. So it's kind of two bad people trying to make their way in the world. Obviously not the same, but the cool girl monologue, I definitely feel like Kathy had those.
Well, also in Gone Girl, the scene where she actually commits murder is so shocking. And maybe even one-ups Kathy and making herself look like a victim too, which is great. Okay, here we are 77 years later. Is Out of the Past still cool?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, we're still cool.
And why?
So, I watched Out of the Past and then immediately watched Against All Odds, which was a remake of Out of the Past.
I'm so sorry.
And, I mean, I liked Against All. Well, James Woods is cool, and Jeff Bridges is cool. Anyway, it's supposed to be the same movie, right? One's a remake, but the 1947 version of that story was just way better. There were more characters. The actors were better, and the way that the whole love triangle was maneuvered was better in the first. I thought it was better.
I think it's cool just because noir will always be cool to me. It's like one of my favorite genres. I just love looking at it. It's so stylized, and the story's great, and it's just so tension building the whole time. I couldn't look away.
Kylie, you feel the same way?
Yes, I think the tension was really what grabbed me, but also just how much I felt like there was little seeds of care in between. And it was a little bit more tenderness sprinkled about than other film noirs I've seen.
Interesting. So, Kylie, what about the making of? Did you get any interesting info about that?
Yes, so it was based on the novel we talked about, Build My Gallows High, that was actually released in 1946. Then the film was written and filmed between then in 1946 at the end of the year and finished filming in 1947 in January. Another really fast turnaround, like with last episode's movie, Rosemary's Baby. But there were about 3 different screenwriters who went through it. Daniel Mainwaring, who wrote the book under the pseudonym Jeffrey Holmes, he wrote the first one. Then it went to somebody else who had to tweak it a bunch. And then a third writer, Frank Fanton, he went in and then was like, okay, let's jumble this together and fix it all. So I think that kind of separates why some dialogue is much different than the other dialogues. At least I noticed that from beginning to the end. But RKO actually wanted Humphrey Bogart to play it, but Warner Brothers wouldn't allow Humphrey Bogart to be on loan. So Robert Mitchum got his chance to shine, and actually him and Jane Greer had such an awesome relationship. After Robert Mitchum's passing, they did a TCM, Jane Greer and Debbie Reynolds, and Jane Greer just talked about what an amazing man Robert Mitchum was, and they were always super close, and he defended her when she was disrespected on set. He would demand her respect for being a leading lady. And they were friends until he passed away before her. But him and Kirk Douglas had a bit of a competition on screen together. And it was very alluded to in the press. But whenever each of them were asked about their competition or their distaste for each other, they were just so admirable about it. And they said how much they loved each other and how talented they are.
Does anyone know about what happened to Mitchum around this time, legally? So Mitchum gets busted with a few other actors, none of whom were as famous as him, for smoking weed, which was super illegal back then.
I read something about that. Marijuana, they said.
Yeah, marijuana. There's a picture of all of them in court when the verdict comes down, and the others are all scowling and upset, and Mitchum's like literally mocking the verdict. Wow. So he goes to jail for like a month, like less than Robert Downey Jr. on any of his stints, right? And the day that he's going to be released, his lawyer shows up early with a great suit, puts him in it. They take some pictures at one point of him sweeping the jail in a suit, and then they show him walking out like totally, and his box office just went through the roof.
Wow.
He got a lot of good publicity out of that just because it fit with his character. Guy.
Yeah.
Do you have any info about the reception when it was released and after?
So this one was kind of like hard to find actual budget numbers for this. I don't know why. But in 1947, this movie came in 30th, like way down. But it was the same year that Forever Amber was the #1 movie, and the #3 movie was Gone with the Wind.
That's like 8 years after Gone with the Wind was released, I think, too.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind was like in the top 10 for like the first 30 years after it came out.
I'm sort of wondering about movies from the 40s. You know, we've seen Meet John Doe, we've seen Citizen Kane, we've seen Out of the Past. Is that like the best decade for American movies? Or
it's one of my favorites.
It's up there.
A lot of post-war energy. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about Jacques Tourneur, the director?
He was born in Paris, 1904. As a little kid, he moved to Hollywood with his father, who was a film director, Maurice Tourneur. They worked in France and America, with Jacques mostly assisting his dad, getting little walk-on roles and little various jobs around the studio. He made about 20 short films in Hollywood. And then in 1934, as Hitler took power in Europe, they moved permanently to the United States, to Los Angeles. So David O. Selznick noticed that Tourneur was kind of a skilled craftsman, and he gave him his first feature film in 1939. It's called They All Came Out. And he let him direct second unit on a big remake of Tale of Two Cities. And Val Lewton, the producer, was the second unit line producer on that film for MGM. And Lewton then was hired by RKO and was asked as his first film to produce a film called The Cat People, which Lewton thought would make a really, really terrible picture. The script apparently was awful. Lewton just hated the whole concept. He thought it was dumb, and he didn't know what to do. So he talked to his friend, Jacques Tourneur, about how they could try to make a decent and somewhat intelligent movie out of cat people. And Tourneur jumped in to help. Now, Lewton was really the prime driver of that. It's not like Tourneur figured out how to make that a great movie. Lewton did. But Tourneur did do a great job directing the film. He gave it a lot of atmosphere. And Cat People was a huge, huge hit for RKO because it costs only like $100,000 to make. And it made like 5 times what it cost, which is good business. So he kept working for Val Lewton. I don't know if you know, but Martin Scorsese is a huge Val Lewton fan. Martin Scorsese, I guess, was born the year that Cat People came out. So Scorsese saw it as a little kid and was really thrilled by this film that I think, frankly, if you look at it today, you'll see a very corny old horror film with a lot of great atmosphere, though. And
amazing style.
Very, very stylish and a lot of good ideas about how to create something out of just nothing. Because it really ought to be just a really crappy B movie, but it's not. It rises above because of Val Lewton's story ideas and because of Jacques Tourneur's idea of the less you show, the more people are scared. So Jacques Tourneur, no, you don't show the rubber monster. I guess in today's world, you don't show the CGI monster. You just let people use their imaginations. And these films were good that way. So Tourneur became a really good horror movie guy. He made a film called I Walked with a Zombie. He made a film called The Leopard Man. And then he got a chance to do this film with Robert Mitchum. And it was a pretty good budget for RKO, higher than the usual budgets. And I'll just say that Jacques Tourneur is not actually an auteur. You know, we kind of talked about how David Lynch is an auteur, Alfred Hitchcock's an auteur. These are directors that whatever they do, they're going to bring something very special and make it their own. Well, Jacques Tourneur made probably 30 films, and about 25 of them are really forgettable. He wasn't able to just take anything and make something great out of it. But when he had the right ingredients, he really had a great sense of style, and he was a wonderful craftsman. He got good performances. He looks a little like Hitchcock. You know, he's not a dynamic looking guy. He sort of looks like an accountant. And he used those skills to make very competent pictures when he had the right script and all the right elements. And I think this is the one time in his life where everything came together. He had a great script, he had a great cast, and it was a picture that was right for him. I don't think he was trying to work in a genre called film noir. I think this is one of the early film noir pictures. You know, the genre is a bit invented by John Huston with Maltese Falcon and Tourneur with this film and Billy Wilder with Double Indemnity. I think Tourneur knew how to create mood for horror movies, and that some of the horror movie techniques he used really gave this picture a lot of mystery and depth. It's very dark. You never quite know what's coming out of the corners. That familiarity with these horror movie techniques, I think, and the fact that he loved to shoot at night because it was more elegant and more mysterious, that really, really gave the film a lot. And so just borrowing from that experience, I think he created something really, really special with this movie.
We'll be right back.
Una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. 8 configuraciones diferentes, intensidad ajustable, además es calefaccionado. Y se siente tan bien. Sí, una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. Y 2, bueno, aún más. Pero cuando esas sillas de masajes vienen con un auto, se vuelven bastante prácticas. El nuevo Volkswagen Tiguan 2025 con funciones premium como los asientos delanteros con masaje disponibles. Solo parece extravagante.
On top of building this fake volcano for months, I give my daughter Smarty Pants vitamins to support her brain health. So her science fair project sounds more like and less like. And while I may say it's not a competition, of course it's a f***ing competition. Choose Smarty Pants vitamins to support your kids' brain health and save the science fair. Shop on Amazon, smartypantsvitamins.com, or at Target today.
All right. I think this is a great time for us to rate and recommend this movie anywhere between 1 to 4 stars. 4 stars is something that's not just an A+, but it's kind of touched you personally. 3.5 stars being an A, 3 stars being an A-, and we get to the Bs. A good B movie is 2.5 stars, a bad one is 2, and then everything kind of falls off from there. So I'm going to start with Guy on this one.
Everybody should watch every movie ever made, good or bad. But if I gotta nail down a group of people, if you like mysteries, if you're like the true crime podcast person, this might be up your alley. Anyone that kind of likes a good mystery story being told and unfold, and that you can't really see where everything's going and what's what. This is a pretty good one, and I give it 3.5 stars.
I would say I recommend this to anyone who maybe isn't always into film noir. I think it's a great one to launch you into the rest of the genre, and it's a little bit enough different where it can kind of draw you in. And I would probably rate it a 3.5 because I at first didn't like it too much, and then once I got into it, I just, you can't get help but be enthralled in the tension in it and the tenderness, and it's just really more complex than I thought a movie of this genre could be.
I would also recommend it to all those people and anyone who likes to study like Americana or just film history. And I think I'm gonna only give it 3 just because I want my film noirs to have a femme fatale that I'm just in love with and on her side. I did like the change of being on the man's side this time, but I don't know. It was missing a little something for me, but I did really enjoy it.
I think I'm getting pulled up to a 3.5. On earlier viewings, I would have called this a 3. And it's because there are these subtle and beautiful techniques in the film that are really motivated by censorship and low budgets. And that really appeals to me. You know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I directed some B movies for Roger Corman. And you find yourself in this situation of you haven't got any money. You haven't got a producer that really is going to make any effort to try to make your movie good. And you don't even have time to make the script what you'd want. You're just working against everything. That's when you generally make a really crummy movie. But Jacques Tourneur and Huff, his producer, pulled out a film that really stands out, a film that you can go back to, that's memorable, and 77 years later, really still watchable and enjoyable. That doesn't happen very often. So that's worth 3.5. I'd recommend it to anybody that likes beautiful old movies, that doesn't need a film to be important, but is just satisfied with a film having something interesting to say and an interesting way of saying it.
Well, I agree with David about who I'd recommend it to. Definitely someone who's interested in a kind of a film noir that's got more going for it. This movie has something special that a lot of other noirs don't. It has more depth. It has more contrast. I'd always liked Robert Mitchum, but I thought that he'd never looked more handsome. And I think Jane Greer is really sexy. And I think Kirk Douglas is really sexy in it too. I think this is like one of the horniest movies of the era. You have a little bit of it with Double Indemnity, but I don't find Fred McMurray to be that attractive. And I think Barbara Stanwyck's kind of a little campy in it. But this one, that really feels like these are real adults who are fucking up their lives. And that to me is exciting. I think the speed with which the movie works is kind of amazing. Like, just wait a minute or two, there's going to be another great line coming down the pike. What do you want? Coffee. Anything with it? Cream. You know, it's just like every few minutes there's another great line. So I think if you like this kind of complexity and it really gets your head going, it's an endorphin rush to watch this movie. I've seen this at least 10 times. Every year I kind of watch it again. And, you know, I'm kind of getting to the point where maybe it's enough, but David and I went to see a screening, I think 4 months ago, where a woman spoke before about the costumes in the movie and how Kathy's costume changes indicate different stages of her predatory nature. It's kind of fascinating. There's so much in here, so much depth. But I think the core theme of it is actually stated at the very beginning by the waitress in the diner. She says, it seems like everything people ought to know, they just don't want to hear. And it's a throwaway line. But isn't the whole movie about people not listening to their conscience, not doing what they're supposed to do, making the wrong choices right and left because they're horny or because they want money or because they're pride or because they need to get revenge for somebody for screwing them over? Like, nobody is listening to what they should be listening to. And so the ending where you have this deaf-mute teenager.
He turns Robert Mitchum into a hero at the end. Robert Mitchum really is never a hero. At the end, he becomes a hero because now he's sacrificed himself for Anne, you know, the purest character in the movie.
I think that it's really interesting that he lies at the end. Like, everyone's been lying in the movie, but it's for a good reason. So it's kind of like, that's how we got to live sometimes. Like, sometimes we just have to live with the lie just to be able to get by because we are driven by things we think we control and we just don't. And that's why, for me, it really strikes me personally, and it is a 4-star movie for me.
I appreciate it because I probably never would have chosen this movie to watch. I've never heard of it before, and it's something I probably would have just scrolled past on Canopy or something, but I'm happy I got to watch it.
Yeah, I never would have picked this one up, and I like movies.
Yeah.
All right, so if you want to watch Out of the Past, it's available to rent or buy on Apple TV, Vudu, Prime Video, YouTube, and Google Play, and it does show up on TCM at least once a year. Speaking of YouTube, you can find Film Generations there with clips and stills and on audio wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you do like our show, please tell your friends. Please rate and review it so others can find us as well. Film Generations is an ElectraCast production, and I'd like to thank our panelists, Grace Chapman, Kylie LaRue, Guy Lewis, and my co-host and our producer, David Tauzik. Our executive producers are myself, Mark Netter, and my partner, Peter Rafelson. Our editor is Marcus Campito. Now for our next episode, we come perilously close to the 21st century with the most recent film that we've ever covered, and it is a bruiser. Edward Norton and Brad Pitt in David Fincher's adaptation of Jeff Palahniuk's Fight Club. So will you please join us as we violate the first rule of Fight Club and find out if it still holds up with our young panelists, believe it or not, a quarter century later, only here on Film Generations.
ElectraCast. Hey guys, it's your girl Yasia. I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just dropped my first ever single, Spell on You, off my upcoming debut EP, Devil's Room, on RM Records. It's simply devilicious. Check out Spell on You wherever you listen to music. Bye for now.
I never thought I'd fall in love like this. It's time to close the chapter, but I think I needed this.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Peter.
We're the founders of ElectraCast Media, bringing you great podcasts like Nightmare Road Stories, Tech Talk Revolution, and Bodacious Minds.
ElectraCast networks include Ruby for female empowerment, the Best Business Network, and GPN for geopolitics. We built this company to create community and amplify diverse voices, and we really appreciate your support.
So, keep listening to ElectraCast podcasts and hear the culture.
ElectraCast.